Remember when you wished you could freeze time during an embarrassing moment? Yeah, you can thank the queen of low-budget sci-fi weirdness Out of This World for that. Today, we're deep diving into one of the strangest sitcoms that somehow ran for 4 seasons. A show where teenage angst met alien superpowers, all wrapped in gloriously clunky 80s special effects. And before we get started, be sure to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. Alright, let's get into the premise of this weird show. Out of This World premiered in 1987 during an era when TV networks seemed willing to greenlight anything short of home video. Created by Bob Booker, not Barker, and John Boney, this show took the classic coming-of-age sitcom and cranked the weirdness dial up to 11. Evie Garland, played by Maureen Flannigan, discovers on her 13th birthday that she's half alien because apparently pimples and awkward crushes weren't enough of a nightmare. Along with the usual teenage problems, she gets the power to stop time by touching her 2 index fingers together, but that's not all.
Fingers, do your stuff. Man.
Her long-lost alien dad, Troy, suddenly starts beaming parenting advice to Evie through a glowing crystal cube from his home planet, Antares. Meanwhile, Evie's mom, Donna, played by Donna Pescow of Saturday Night Fever fame, had been raising her daughter like a normal human, completely unaware that she was about to spend the next few years wrangling a teenager with time-stopping powers. Because what's a little cosmic chaos when you're just trying to survive the 80s? And here's the kicker. While Donna knew about Troy communicating through the cube, she couldn't hear him or talk to him herself. Only Evie could. That's right, Donna was co-parenting with someone she couldn't even argue with directly. Oh, so your father think that's okay. Well, tell him I said... Just forget about it. Evie's use or misuse of her powers often led to humorous and absurd situations, whether she was freezing time during an embarrassing moment or using her gleeping ability to materialize objects out of thin air. And those weren't her only powers. Evie could materialize objects from nowhere through gleeping and eventually gained the ability to teleport instantaneously from one place to another. She could even selectively unfreeze individuals by touching them while time was stopped. Nothing like having a teenager with an entire arsenal of supernatural abilities when you're trying to set boundaries. The phrase, "wait until your father gets home," takes on a whole new meaning when Dad is literally a disembodied voice from another planet.
And how did we rejoin, Dad?
I guess it was due to the most important force in the universe.
Now, the origins and network woes of Out of This World had a weird start as a premise. It originally aired as part of NBC's ill-fated Primetime Begins at 7:30 experiment, a desperate attempt to fill the half hour before primetime with sitcoms no one really asked for. Most of the shows in this lineup flopped hard, but somehow, against all odds, Out of This World managed to outlast them all, moving to weekend syndication where it found its real audience: kids and teens who had nothing better to do on a lazy Saturday afternoon. And despite critics absolutely roasting it, with one particularly savage review calling it quite possibly the worst sitcom ever made, the show ran for a surprising 96 episodes across 4 seasons. That's the power of a captive tween audience in the pre-internet era, baby. That's when your viewing options were either this or helping your parents clean the garage, and we were choosing this. The cast of famous faces and hidden voices of Out of This World featured some genuinely talented performers working with, let's be honest, some deeply weird material. Maureen Flannigan brought Evie to life with a perfect mix of wide-eyed innocence and teenage exasperation. No small feat when half her scenes involved pretending to talk to a glowing cube. Just 13 when the show began, Flannigan carried the series on her shoulders, reacting to special effects that wouldn't exist until long after the camera stopped rolling. Donna Pescow played Evie's mom, who was also named Donna, in a weird coincidence that makes you wonder if the casting director just said, "Hey, you already know how to respond to that name, so we're gonna run with it." As if running a household with a half-alien teen wasn't enough, her character also ran the school for gifted children that Evie attended, making her both mom and principal, a double whammy of authority that even superpowers couldn't overcome. During the show's 2nd season, Pescow became pregnant, which presented a bit of a continuity issue for a character whose husband was supposedly light years away.
That's him, that's your father's voice.
Dad, is that you?
The solution was the sitcom classic of close-ups, baggy clothes, and hiding her behind oversized furniture and suspiciously large props. Nothing says creative problem solving like a woman holding increasingly large grocery bags for 10 episodes straight. Joe Alaskey played Uncle Beano Froelich, Donna's goofy, well-meaning brother who provided much-needed comic relief with his physical comedy and half-baked schemes. As Evie's bumbling uncle, he was the perfect foil to Donna's more responsible parenting style, the kind of guy who'd encourage you to use your alien powers to get concert tickets while your mom wasn't looking. He was also the only other character besides Donna who knew about Evie's alien heritage, making him both comic relief and confidant, a role he handled with all the grace of a bull in a china shop that somehow manages not to break anything important. Doug McClure played Mayor Kyle Applegate, a former Hollywood actor turned small-town politician whose character seemed to lose IQ points with each passing season. What started as a slightly dim-witted local official gradually morphed into a full-blown cartoon character, the kind of guy who'd lose a debate with a goldfish and still come out confused about how he lost. And then there's the show's most famous cast member, one whose face never appeared on screen. The voice of Evie's alien father Troy came from none other than Burt Reynolds. No, you heard that right, Burt Reynolds, one of the biggest movie stars in the world at the time. Reynolds insisted his name be left out of the credits, recording all his lines as a personal favor to series co-creator Bob Booker.
So what do you think I should do about Chris?
Well, you won the bet, didn't you? I'd say it's time to collect.
He reportedly knocked out an entire season's worth of dad advice in a single recording session, a reminder that even A-listers sometimes have to phone it in literally. Now, if there's one thing that defined 80s sci-fi TV, it was the fine art of making special effects with a budget that wouldn't even cover a third-grader science fair volcano. Take Evie's time-stopping power, the show's signature effect. How did they pull off such a reality-bending feat? Simple. They just had the cast freeze in place while the camera kept rolling, then let Maureen Flannigan stroll around the set. Toss in a cartoonish boing sound effect, and voila, instant time manipulation. James Cameron was shaking in his boots, I'm sure.
Evie, are you alright? Evie, what's the matter?
Then there's the opening credits, a mix of Evie doing her best Breakfast Club freeze frame and space shots swiped from Buck Rogers in the 25th century. Why create new space footage when your perfectly good B-roll is just gathering dust in the vault? And let's not forget Troy's glowing communication cube. Basically, it was a plastic box with a flashing light bulb inside, spouting Burt Reynolds' disembodied voice with a budget echo effect. It's like if Siri was designed by someone whose entire tech experience was installing batteries in a flashlight.
What is it?
Damned if I know. I've been trying to figure it out for 13 years. Oh, it's never done that before. Or that.
Happy birthday, Eve.
That's him. That's your father's voice.
Dad, is that you? Is it really you?
It's me, birthday girl.
But here's the thing, kids at home ate it up. The simplicity made these effects feel weirdly achievable, leading to countless playground attempts to freeze time by touching index fingers together. We may laugh now, but at the time we were totally convinced we just needed to practice more to get our fingers to work. There was something genuinely magical about effects simple enough that you could imagine recreating them yourself, even if that imagination came crashing down after the 50th failed attempt to freeze your teacher mid-lecture. Now that we've covered the show's bargain basement special effects, let's talk about the actors that were brave enough to appear alongside them. For a low-budget syndicated show about a half-alien teenager, Out of This World managed to pull in a surprisingly impressive roster of guest stars. The guest list included Scott Baio, Fred Willard, Richard Mole, Norman Fell, Ruth Buzzy, and David Doyle, a mix of classic TV faces and comedic legends who lent their talents to this quirky sci-fi sitcom. It's like they were picking names out of a hat labeled available TV stars who agents weren't paying attention. Tom Bosley, one of America's favorite TV dads thanks to his role as Howard Cunningham on Happy Days, even showed up as Troy's father Zelig. Because if you're casting the grandfather of a half-alien girl with time-freezing powers, why not pick a TV dad known for his calm, all-American wisdom? Then there were the regular supporting characters who ranged from mildly quirky to completely bonkers. Christina Nigra played Lindsay Selkirk, Evie's boy-crazy best friend who somehow never noticed her BFF could freeze time and summon objects out of thin air despite countless close calls. Either she was the least observant friend in television history, or Evie's powers also included making people forget really obvious supernatural events. Steve Burton played Chris Fuller, Evie's on-again, off-again boyfriend who worked at the deeply unappetizing sounding fast food joint Chicken in a Basket, a name that sounds less like a restaurant and more like something you'd yell when you drop a rotisserie chicken on the way to your car. Alright, now it's time to dive into the gloriously weird, logic-defying world of Out of This World's most memorable episodes. The kind of plots that only make sense if you grew up watching TV shows where gleeping was a perfectly normal word, and 4 seasons felt like a reasonable commitment to a show about a half-alien teenager. First up, Season 1, Episode 10, Baby Talk, where Evie lands her first babysitting gig and accidentally gleeps baby Neil the ability to talk. Because if there's one thing every new parent wants, it's their infant suddenly dropping zingers like a tiny stand-up comic. Imagine changing a diaper while a 6-month-old roasts your parenting skills.
I wish you could just tell me what's wrong with you.
That strained spinach my mother fed me. Gives me cramps every time.
Luckily, Troy came to the rescue and everything worked out fine, which, come to think of it, is the basic plot of every episode that isn't the series finale, but we'll get to that train wreck later. Next up is Season 2, Episode 17, where Evie, Lindsay, and Chris rebel against their new school uniforms. Evie was supposed to give a speech at the school board meeting, but also wanted to hit up a birthday party the same night. Her solution? Split into 2 versions of herself. This groundbreaking bit of TV magic required the sophisticated special effect of a classic split-screen trick and a stand-in filmed from behind. You know, high-tech wizardry, if the tech in question was a pair of safety scissors and a glue stick. And now for the infamous series finale cliffhanger, the "I can't believe this is how they ended it" moment. After 4 seasons of antics, the show wrapped with Troy finally returning to Earth, but only for 4 hours and only as a silhouette due to a teleportation glitch, because if you're cutting costs, why not save a few bucks by not bringing in the world's biggest star for a guest spot? Can you imagine what that would have cost them? When his time is up, Troy gleeps his interplanetary transport booster to return to Antares, but Donna accidentally beams herself up to the alien planet instead, leaving Troy stuck on Earth, Donna trapped on Antares, and roll credits. That's it, series over, no resolution, no closure whatsoever. Now, to be fair, this wasn't the writer's fault. Like so many shows of the era, Out of This World fell victim to the sudden cancellation acts, leaving generations of viewers stuck with a cosmic to be continued that never got continued. Remember, this was before the age of Twitter campaigns to save your favorite shows, so once a network pulled the plug, that was pretty much it. Talk about your 80s TV heartbreak. It's right up there with the Twin Peaks finale and every show that got yanked off the air before its time. At least David Lynch got a revival. Out of This World, not so much. Now that we're done scratching our heads at those wacky plot lines, let's talk about the show's earworm of a theme song, because nothing says low-budget alien sitcom like repurposing a classic Hollywood tune. Out of This World used a modified version of Swinging on a Star, which won an Oscar for Best Original Song in 1944, when Bing Crosby crooned it in Going My Way.
Would you like to swing on a star? Carry moonbeams home in a jar.
For the show's theme, they jazzed up the melody and kept some lyrics while changing others to fit the alien premise. Would You Rather Go to Earth replaced the original's Would You Rather Be a Mule or a Pig or a Fish, a swap that probably had songwriter Johnny Burke spinning in his grave. The opening sequence featured snippets of how Evie's parents met, with Troy's face always strategically obscured, partly to maintain the mystery and partly because they never actually cast an actor to physically play him. We can afford Burt Reynolds' voice, or we can afford to show his face. Pick one, and guess which option was cheaper. Ironically, this catchy borrowed tune is likely why you won't find the show streaming anywhere today. Clearing the music rights would cost more than what studios expect to make from releasing it, so it's just another cosmic joke in the Out of This World saga. Now let's dig into some lesser-known trivia that even the most dedicated fans might have forgotten, or possibly blocked out of their own sanity. The fictional town of Marlow, where the show took place, was supposedly located near Carmel and Monterey, California, though it was never actually filmed there. Instead, it was shot on cheap sets that looked about as much like the California coast as a painted backdrop in a middle school play. When Evie got her time-stopping powers, the writers established a convenient rule. Whenever she used her abilities for personal gain, her dad would ground her by temporarily disabling them, a convenient way to save on special effects while sneaking in a moral lesson. Because if there's one thing 80s kids loved, it was being taught life lessons by a glowing cube. Evie eventually gained the power to teleport, a new ability likely added to keep the show fresh, or at least distract from the fact that the writers had already run out of ideas for time-stopping shenanigans. We've frozen every possible scenario, so what if she could also just disappear? Now, after spending all this time with our favorite half-alien family, you might be wondering what happened to this illustrious cast once the final laugh track faded out. Well, Maureen Flannigan kept acting after the show wrapped. She popped up on series like Seventh Heaven, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and eventually moved into documentary filmmaking, a job that probably comes with fewer awkward freeze-frame effects. Donna Pescow continued her TV career with roles on shows like Even Stevens, where she played Eileen Stevens, another TV mom, and The Sopranos. From disco dancing in Saturday Night Fever to hiding behind potted plants while pregnant on a sci-fi sitcom. That's what we call range, people. Joe Alasky, who played Uncle Beano, went on to become one of the most respected voice actors in the business, taking over iconic characters like Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Tweety Bird after Mel Blanc's passing. It turns out trading pratfalls for pitch-perfect impressions worked out pretty well for him, from saying, what's up, Doc?
What's up, Doc?
To, I tall, a putty tat.
I taught, putty tat, creeping upon me.
Alasky found his true calling bringing cartoon legends to life. Doug McClure continued acting right up until his passing in 1995. One of his final roles was a cameo in the 1994 hit Maverick, a fitting nod to his Western roots. As for the voice of Troy, Burt Reynolds continued reinventing himself in movies like Boogie Nights and The Longest Yard remake. He passed away in 2018, leaving behind a legacy that included some of the coolest car chases in movie history, and for better or worse, 4 seasons of intergalactic dad advice from inside a light-up paperweight. And that's it, fellow time travelers. Drop your favorite out-of-this-world moment in the comments because we can't wait to hear from you. While you're at it, be sure to like and subscribe, and if you want more forgotten sitcoms and retro deep dives, we've got a whole playlist of this stuff, because apparently this is what we do with our midlife crises, and links are in the description. Thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.